Thank you very much. It seems so apropos for me to be in Massachusetts, being from Massachusetts. 1993 was a very special year for me. It was the first time I had the opportunity to speak at a high school, happened to be in Aspen, Colorado, a march on Washington, and it was my very first chance to meet Martina Navratilova. And since then, I am honored to be her friend. But I must tell you that before I had the opportunity to meet Martina, at schools all over the country, she was always a part of my talk. Because when people ask me, do I have a role model? I said it was Martina. So I'm not going to go into how I feel about Martina because I think it's going to be very obvious this evening. So without further ado, I am honored to introduce to you my friend, Martina Navratilova.
Martina, I'm still 38.
And I certainly won't tell you how old I am.
There's a gift here for you.
Oh, thank you. Are you nervous?
I am. So I guess you know that we're here to actually have the first opportunity that we've ever had to have the type of conversation we're going to have this evening. And I've always wanted to ask Martina, why in the hell do you give referees such a hard time? No, that isn't what I wanted to ask.
I do make mistakes.
Yes. Not I, though. I didn't do that.
But at least I have a chance to say correction.
That's true.
When I miss a shot, I can say, oh, let me do that over.
I've always wanted to know for myself, Martina,
What do you want to know?
what it was like for yourself to grow up being gay. And since we haven't had the opportunity to talk, I want to tell you what it was like for me, and then maybe you can tell me what it was like for yourself. Growing up an Italian Catholic, I had such a hard time because I had to be a straight and narrow kid, but I loved sports, and my friends, all we ever did was play sports. But inside me, somehow I knew that I was different. I knew that I was gay. And my father would always tell me, you know, that you have to be macho to be in professional sports. My friends would always tell me. And growing up, I just did not know what to do. It was very difficult for me to grow up in the sports world and having crushes on people that I was playing sports with, whether it be baseball, basketball, football, hockey, street hockey. And I could never come to terms with it, and I could never feel good about myself. I never respected myself. You know, we were fortunate enough to speak to some high school students this evening, and they are so open. It's so wonderful. And yet I could never even think of being like that. And here in America, you know, you would think that I would have more of an opportunity to be who I am, where I think where you grew up in the communist country, it was very difficult for you. For me, I wish I could have my young years back, and not because I would just want to be young again, so that I could experience all the things when I should have experienced them. And now I'm experiencing the things I'm doing now, and I feel that it's so late, but I'm glad I'm doing it. But I don't know, I still have so many regrets. Do you yourself have regrets?
My regrets are different. My regret is that I had to leave my country in order to be the tennis player that I wanted to be, and miss those years with my sister, my parents, and also my grandmother. When I left in '75, I was 19, and I didn't know, actually, by then I knew that I was gay. But it just happened when I was like 18, 19. So growing up, I didn't have that problem of not belonging or not being able to be out because I had no idea what the heck I was doing. I it was not until I had my first sexual experience with a woman I'm like, ah, so that's the deal.
And see, I didn't have my first sexual experience until I was 26.
Yeah, so well, you didn't know until you were 26. Well, you knew, but you didn't have the experience until you were 26. I realized it through my sexual experience, so I was a little slow. But the best thing about growing up in a communist country, looking back, which I had no idea when I came here that this would exist, was the sexism didn't exist as far as being an athlete. It was okay for you to be a woman athlete because under the communist system, supposedly men and women are equal, and women athletes were just as revered as men athletes. So I was never looked at badly for being a jock and doing most sports better than the boys. And I never got that put down and say, oh, you know, she must be a lesbian because she's such a good athlete. That didn't happen until I came here. But on the other hand, if you were a lesbian homosexual in Czechoslovakia, they put you in an institution.
And how is it now? How is it now?
Well, it's better. I mean, there's like gay bars now apparently in Prague, which I haven't seen yet, but they're there. And they're starting groups that are lesbian and homosexual groups. So there is some organization happening now in the Czech Republic. But I read somewhere a statistic that in Russia, 80% of Russians believe homosexuals ought to be shot. But then it goes back to the old rhetoric that, you know, homosexuals are ruder than sick. So that's a lot worse there than it is here.
I had a very hard time. My parents both passed away before I had the opportunity to tell them. My mother, actually, when she passed away in 1973, there was no way I would have told her. But my biggest regret is not being able to tell my dad. You know, I was in the major leagues at the time when he died in 1982, and I didn't give him the opportunity to really know about me. And, you know, he was proud of me being a major league umpire, but I wanted him to know so much about me, and I didn't give him that opportunity. Did you come out to your parents when you were young, or it took you a long time?
No, I was 24, and I lived in Charlottesville, Virginia at the time, and I wasn't going to tell them anything, but I wasn't hiding anything either. I figured if they wanted to know that, if they wanted to ask me, I would tell them, but I wasn't going to bring it up. And then they brought it up. My father said, we think that you and Maria married as husband and wife. I said, well, we do. You know, you asked that. It did not go well after that. But give my parents credit, my father particularly read up on the subject and realized that it was anything that they had done. Which, how egotistical can you be, thinking that as a parent you really had that much effect on your child to affect their sexuality. I mean, I have a friend that finally came out to her parents. She's 51. Had been gay for about 15 years, and the mother says, "Where did I go wrong?"
I think that
so,
happens.
Anyway.
I think that happens with all parents. Not all parents, but most parents feel that way. Especially the people that I know. They say that their parents feel, that they had something to do with it. And I feel the only thing that they had to do with it is that they made their son or daughter. It's genetic, as I think you feel and I feel. And most people in this room, I would assume, feel the same way.
But again, my parents did read up on the subject, and now are very accepting. They just want me to be happy and find a good mate. And of course, at the time, they couldn't disown me since I was the one with the money. So.
Say something.
They couldn't throw me out of the house either, because it was my house.
I don't even know. Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have a sister, and she's 7 years younger. She lives in Germany. She just became a dentist, and was just fixing my mother's teeth last week for the first time, and she's wonderful. She's very, very supportive.
Is she married?
Maybe she will get married. She's been dating this guy. He's Swedish. They met at a tennis tournament in Rome, and he's in Sweden, she's in Germany. Anyway, they're trying to work it out. They've been seeing each other like every third weekend for 2 years, so that's a pretty good love. My advice for a long-distance relationship, I think Rosie O'Donnell said that, move.
That's right. I have a sister and a brother who have been very supportive, and if you remember in the room with the high school students, one of them talked about born-again Christians, and I meant to tell them that my sister is a born-again Christian, and born-again Christians do not really like homosexuals, but my sister, they don't like much of anybody. But I have to admit that my sister has done well by me. She's supported me, and she has never thrown anything in my face, and she's always there to help and anytime I need her, and it's really good. But there are so many young people that don't have the support of their families, and I know quite a few. How about yourself? Do you know some young people that are close to you that are having problems with their families?
Oh, sure. I have another friend who very well-educated parents, and she's in her 30s and just figured out that she was gay maybe 3 years ago. And parents don't want her to come for Christmas. I mean, they barely talk anymore, and you just have to keep staying with it. You know, you get your strength from your chosen family and the friends that you choose, and hope to convert your parents over time. You just, have to give them time because. They are your parents, but at the same time, you can't take crap from them because they are your parents.
That's right.
You gotta stand up for what you believe in. They say, you can come, but not your girlfriend. Well,
then I stay home.
Sorry, no.
In my case, I would like it if I had a girlfriend, but that's one thing that I have a real problem with is lesbian and gay adults, and I'll say this. For me, I'm very fortunate. No problem.
Still a kid.
That's right. You're still a kid. You still can play tennis. Anyways, my biggest problem. I have been so fortunate to be able to go out and speak at universities all around the country. I've been blessed, and I really mean that. And the young people always want to know why can't they be a part of the adult section of the lesbian and gay community? We feel like because they're 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, they're not a part of the 25 to 45 or 50 group. There's, whether it be a bar, whether it be a Human Rights Campaign fund dinner, whatever you want to talk about. And I always tell them one thing that they forget and what they should do is that they should try to learn from the older adults, elderly, because they need to learn from them. We need to learn from them. Do you know any elderly lesbian and gay people in their 60s, 70s, 80s? And for me, those experiences that they have are incredible, and I've learned so much. And I try to get the young people to go to them. What kind of advice can you actually even give myself or to the people here that they can do to help the younger people?
The older people help the younger? I think the older people are learning from the younger ones about being out and about being open and about accepting who they are. I mean, I know a woman who is still married, who's been in a convenience marriage, so to speak, for like 30 years. Mm-hmm. And she would rather be with women. She's had all these affairs throughout her life. But she stays married because that's like, that's comfortable to her. And she still won't come out to herself, admit to herself that she really is gay.
Yes.
And so, that's where I think the older generation can learn from the younger generation. And you cannot expect for the world to accept you if you don't accept yourself. That's where the acceptance has to start, from within. But we can all learn from each other. But, if you're at 15, you can't go to dinner because you're too young. I mean, it's just, sexuality is the common denominator, but that doesn't mean that you can go and act like a 40-year-old.
But we also need to reach out to these young people, because I have learned, which I didn't even know until I started doing this, of how many young people take their lives because of their sexual orientation. And it's something that we forget about. And I remember where I come from, and you especially know where you come from and how difficult it was. And I think it's important for the people in the audience and the older adults to understand that young people need our support. But as Martina said, this evening was really great for me, and I know it was for Martina. These young high school students were so wonderful.
I never even dreamed of coming out at their age, and yet they were already out and ready to go and ready to do something for people that are going to follow that. It's so wonderful. I know you felt the same way.
Absolutely. But as far as suicide is concerned, I don't think there is anything or anyone in this world that's worth killing yourself over.
I got
Period. I mean, I know the sexuality problems are huge in this country, and for kids to be accepted is so difficult with the peer pressure, especially at high schools. I think colleges is a little easier, but it's not definitely worth killing yourself over. No matter how alone you feel, you just have to know that you are not alone.
I was in an argument with someone about statistics, and I had said that over 500,000 young people every year attempt suicide, and over 40% of those completed suicides are because of lesbian and gay, because of their sexual orientation. And those are only the ones we know. And the person got out of the, stood up in the audience and said, well, how do you know that statistics are right? And I said, if I'm off, one is still too many. And I definitely, one thing about myself, my father did give me one thing, and he gave me the strength to always, you know, go forward and be who I am as far as being strong. And that's how I got through my baseball career. That's how I got through my sexual orientation as far as, you know, coming out and wanting to be who I am finally. But I never ever gave the thought of suicide, even though there's been so many times, even now, that I feel that I'm so alone at times.
Well, I think we could just keep going on this, but I would rather hear from you guys about questions that you may have, and then we could go on and go on.
We could actually be here for a whole hour talking to ourselves, and we don't want to do that. I don't know where the microphones are down here and over here. And so what we'll do is just please come right up to the microphone and start forming your lines and asking us questions. We have a few questions that are written out that were submitted by people. And I think Martina and I decided to take maybe two. So I'll let Martina pick one, and then I'll pick one, and then we'll go from there. And as an example, I did bring my glasses. So
That's why you use those glasses. You wore those glasses.
That's right. I lost it not because I couldn't see, not because of my sexual orientation.
Let's see. Question number 5. What is the question that you are asked the most? Are you single? No. They changed over the years, but they were always tennis questions. How old were you when you started playing tennis? And then it changed to how much longer will you be playing tennis? And that actually got me thinking, wondering if they ask men athletes that question that often as well, because I think for some reason women are expected to stop at a certain age, like 30 seems to be the magic number, and start a family, and whereas men can keep going. So I would like to ask some men athletes if they've been asked that question over and over and over again.
I think they asked Nolan Ryan that many times.
Well, but he was in the 40s already.
Right.
They were asking me when I was 21.
Well, that's because you were so good, they wanted to get rid of you.
And I always said, I wait till I'm 30 and then I'll see. Then I hit 30, I'm like, well, I'm still trying to see.
There's a question here. I'm a 19-year-old, I'm going to put these on, I can't do it. I'm a 19-year-old who is into watching and playing sports, especially baseball. How was it for you in high school? Did you know you were gay then? Do you know of any other gay players in Major League Baseball, the NBA? And this part is the best one, the WWF. The World Wildlife Fund. The World Wrestling Federation.
I think Randy Savage is gay.
The World Wrestling Federation is all gay, so that's it. And if you don't think they are, just watch TV a little bit, you'll know. That's the outfits. I want to know how they get into those outfits. That's what I want to know. Well, I've always said about Major League Baseball that We're in the midst of playoffs this year. Thank God we have a playoff system this year in the World Series. You could field a Major League All-Star team, and you could have a general manager to run the club. You could have another umpire to umpire the games, and you can definitely have some substitutes. So, and that's just the people that I know. And naturally, I don't know all of them, and that's just the ones I've known over the last, say, 10 years. So, yes, there are plenty in Major League Baseball. I do know of a few in professional basketball and football. But think of it, if you have 500 players in professional sports, you know, in baseball or football or basketball or hockey, whichever, yes, there are gay people there. They're going to always be, because, you know, how many times do we have to say it? We are everywhere. We just don't know it. And when I love to go into a room when somebody says, and I ask them, how many people know someone that is gay? And you'll have 5 people raise their hand out of 600 people, and I say, you're all wrong. Because you know, everybody in this room knows someone that is a lesbian or gay or bisexual person.
They just don't know that they are.
They just don't know that they are, right.
Which is why it's important to come out.
Yes, very important.
Put a face on us.
I think I already explained the high school part. And I think there was one other one I did want to answer, and I have to look at it again. Did you know you were gay then? In high school, I felt that I was definitely different. But again, as Martina said, and I said, I didn't accept it until I had my first experience with a man, and that wasn't until I was 25, 26 years old. But at least I did it at a good spot. I was in Puerto Rico on the beach, so I wasn't too
I still haven't done it on the beach.
But inquiring minds want to know, have you done it on a tennis court? No, no. We'll take the first question, and we'll go over here. Is it over here? Yes? And you must, I'm sorry, before you start, you must say your name. First name anyways.
Hi, my name is Brenda. I've done it on the beach. Hi, Dave.
Hi there.
Hi, Martina. My name is Brenda, and I am from Louisville, Kentucky. I came over here tonight to see you guys.
You're not the only one that
You came from Louisville, Kentucky?
Oh, Mary and John and...
From Louisville, Kentucky?
Did you do it on the beach?
Is there anybody here that hasn't done it on the beach?
Everybody has.
That's good.
Can you turn down the light so I can maybe see how many hands are up?
I've been to the Gay Games several times, and last year for Gay Games 4 in New York, I organized a research conference that had to do with the topic of lesbian and gay people in sport. And I'm planning on doing another conference next year, and I'm certainly planning on doing the conference again in 1998 for Gay Games 5, which will be held in Amsterdam. So I have 2 questions. Are the 2 of you going to be there to participate? And what can I do to get you 2 to be the keynote speakers for my conference?
I'm going to let Martina answer the last one. I can't etch this in stone, but I am really going to try very hard to be a participant as far as an athlete. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. Bicycle, I'm just a bicycle triathlon. I know I'll come in last, but I am going to try to do it because I do want to be a part of it. And as far as supporting it, naturally I will.
Maybe they'll have you referee.
No, the next time I put on an umpire's mask, and you're going to hear it here for the first time, is when I umpire Major League Baseball, hopefully next year or the year after.
We can say, why are you hiding behind that mask?
There you go.
Shame of your sexuality. The Gay Games, I don't know what I'm doing next year, so 1998 is like way out there, but it's possible that I'll be there. I have no idea. Synchronized swimming? No. That is actually one sport I cannot do for sure. I don't know. Probably tennis, I guess.
Yes, over here. Oh, do you want to answer that?
Well, your keynote speaker in what?
For a conference on lesbian and gay people in sport.
And where is it?
It'll be next year in Louisville, about this time of year, and then another one that will be held in conjunction again with Gay Games 5 in Amsterdam. It'll be held just before the Games opening ceremonies.
I think the best way, and this isn't a cop-out, so please don't make it sound like it's a cop-out. The best way to do that is that maybe afterwards we can get someone to talk to you and get some information from you, and then we can, both of us can get back to you, somebody can get back to you. Because speaking for myself and for Martina, it's difficult for us to come right out and say, yes, we can do that, because especially with Martina's schedule, she doesn't, as she's telling the truth, she really doesn't even know what she's doing next month because she's so busy. She has so much on her plate. So I know that I can at least say that if you get the information, they can make a decision that could possibly go either way. How's that? Is that as diplomatic as I can put it?
Well, I'm taking a year off, so forget it.
How about over here?
Oh, my name is Don Kaiser, and I'm the 19-year-old gay sophomore question you just answered. Thank you very much for taking the World Wrestling Federation part seriously.
I did take it seriously.
Basically, I'm 19 now, but a couple of years ago, I used to umpire Little League Baseball. I see you as a total role model to anybody who plays professional sports or anybody who umpires or referees professional sports, and I'm really glad that you're out of the closet. My question is, have you taken any legal paths in trying to get yourself reinstated into Major League Baseball? Thank you.
I am in the process now of going through that process. I don't want to make it sound like it's a legal thing right now. I am going to start taking the steps. I have been wanting to take the steps over the last 2 years. Unfortunately, baseball doesn't have its act together. It doesn't even have a commissioner yet. And I'm hoping that they will have a commissioner by, say, January. But if they don't, I'm going to follow through with this and try to get back in the conventional way. Most people think, yes, I was fired because I was gay, but the world, other than they hear it from me that I was fired, that I was gay, baseball world said that I retired, that I resigned. Well, I've decided to come out of retirement. If they have a Darryl Strawberry, they can be arrested for IRS convictions and people that are, I'm sorry? You're a Yankee fan. I'm sorry. Everything was great about you until you said that. But in any event, with the support of people like yourselves, and spread the word around that no one should be discriminated against as far as their job or in any part of their life, I feel that with your support, I could be back out onto the field and umpiring balls and strikes, and it will even enhance the chances of young people having a role model, because I will now be even on the field to be able to do it. So please support me if you can, just by saying we want to see Dave Colon back on the baseball.
Is it on? Okay.
It's
A
on.
couple things. My name is David. First of all, I'm a reporter. You're on the record.
No, God. Off the record, we hate reporters, but that's all right.
A couple things. First of all, I'm a little bit fascinated with this, what you're saying about trying to get back into baseball. It seems to me that this is going to be rather difficult. It seems to me that baseball really is. I mean, I question whether they are ready to accept a gay umpire. Is it? I mean, it seems to me you've got your work cut out for you.
Well, first of all, I will not be a gay umpire.
In the perception of, I understand what you're saying, but in your perception,
That wasn't meant as a slam. Please don't take it that way. I am an umpire who happens to be a gay man. Is it going to be a tough road? Well, all I know is this, that what I was put through for the 10 years while I was there, the ostracism, the own self-denial for myself, nothing could be worse. And I have the strength and the stamina to do it.
and I am going to press this as far as I have to press it. And I know it will be easier if, in fact, I get the help of people like here in the audience, and maybe that one word that's always stuck in the thorn, like a thorn in my back, that one word called media, if they support me. I think I should be able to go on the field because I know in my heart I can still do the job. I'm in excellent shape, in better shape than most of the umpires that are working. And although I use glasses for reading, I don't need glasses to call a ball and strike because as far as I'm concerned, anything's a strike anyways.
Also, I think I read some excerpts from your book, and I think you talked about, you made reference to a ball player, a star, a household name who was about to come out of the closet.
Mm-hmm.
This was a couple of years ago, nothing's happened yet. Can you give us sort of an update on that? And also, well, I'd like to know also if anybody in baseball has ever contacted you for some, you know, assistance or emotional support since you've come out.
As far as the player that you're talking about, when I started to make that statement about this gentleman going to come out of the closet, he had told me that he felt that he was going to come out of the closet. And he did a funny thing. He got married. And he played an extra year. And that's as far as I'm going to go with that. So no, he's not out, and he's married. And I haven't figured that out yet. And as far as the second part of that question, I forget it, so tell me again. Ask me again. Oh, yes. Now I know, yes. I did get some letters from, one from the lover of a player and from two umpires, but they were minor league umpires. And they talked about their sexual orientation and how important it was for them to read my book and to read my story. So it was great to get those letters. But amongst those 3 letters, I've gotten close to 60,000. So it's, I know that the support out there for me is great, and I am so appreciative. And this is one of the big reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing this evening, because I feel that I have to give something more back even now. And I think I can even give more back if I'm allowed to go back into baseball.
Could you answer that as well?
Martina? How about the public what? I want your support. I'm sorry, I can't understand what you're asking me. I didn't hear you.
Oh, no reporters.
No reporters at the mic. Okay, well, we haven't. But I haven't seen any of you come down to the mic, so please don't hesitate.
They're waiting in the wings.
Over here.
My name is Gail, and first and foremost, I can't tell you how appreciative I am of having the opportunity to not only see both of you in person, but to be able to address you. I admire both of you a great deal, but nothing against you, Dave.
That's fine. Hey, I'm just so happy I'm getting a couple questions tonight.
But anyway, needless to say, Martina, I have admired you as a tennis player, a fantastic athlete for years, and my admiration is even growing stronger now that you have come out, you have been public, and you have been speaking. Two questions. First, what would you, on many matches that you've played in your life, what would you consider as your most memorable match and why? And secondly, in your speaking engagements, what is your most memorable moment and why today?
That's one of the most asked questions. What was my most memorable matches? And I don't have one that is it. I mean, I could tell you when I beat my grandmother for the first time, when I beat my mother for the first time, when I beat my dad for the first time, when I beat Chris Everett for the first time, my first Wimbledon, you know, my last Wimbledon. I have so many. It's like asking for your favorite child, you know, you can't. So I'm just lucky that I have a lot that I can consider in that category. And as far as speaking engagements, what my most memorable one is I've only done like 3 in my whole life. They're all memorable for different reasons, but the March in Washington 2.5 years ago. That was the most exhilarating, I think, 5 minutes of my life and weekend. I mean, just flying into Washington, and I'm at the airport, and I'm like, oh my God, there's gay people everywhere. And for the first time, I was not a minority, and it was like, oh look, there's a straight couple. It was nice to really finally feel that I belonged, and then to do a speech, which I don't do speeches because I don't feel like I should just talk off the top of my head, because you may not want to hear what I have to say. I'd much rather get questions, because then I know you're interested. You want to know that. And I wrote a speech on my own, and it was like 2-3 minutes long, but it was the most nerve-wracking moment of my life, as well as the most exhilarating. So
That was great.
thank you. Which of course Chris ever said, who wrote your speech?
You were telling me today, bringing up the March on Washington and you coming in, you talked about a new program that you're launching. Why don't you let people know about that?
Yeah, when I left the march, I was with my best friend, one of my best friends, Pam Didarian, who owns a company in Philadelphia, and her girlfriend and partner, Nancy Becker, and we were talking how wonderful it was to have everybody come together for that one weekend. I mean, I've never been to a march or any gay and lesbian happening, and it was so great to feel that unity, but now we were all dispersing, you know, come Sunday at 6 o'clock, we're all leaving. And in fact, I was sitting in the back of the car, Pam was driving, and normally I hide in the car because I don't want people to know that it's me in the car. And this time I see all these rainbow stickers and sisters and brothers there, and I'm like waving to them. which was an incredible experience, and I thought how sad that now we're all going our different directions, and we thought we gotta do something for the gay movement that keeps us together all the time, not just once every couple of years when we're marching and partying. And first we thought, how about a bank, a gay bank? And I thought, no, that's too far to the right. And we said, how about a credit card that gives us all a voice? And we thought up the affinity card, and Pam Didarian has been knocking on doors for 2 years, and finally we got Travelers Bank to support it, and Visa is the card, and it's called the Rainbow Card, and the proceeds of and Subaru is the founding sponsor of the Rainbow Card Foundation. Proceeds of the money, I mean the percentage of the money that people charge on the card goes to the Rainbow Card Foundation, which then disperses the money to various gay and lesbian organizations in this country. Most of them have to do with health right now, some breast cancer research funds, HIV/AIDS funds, etc. Right now we have 6 groups. And if we sign up, if we get 250,000 people over the next 5 years to use the card, we will raise over $20 million for this group. We just unveiled the card yesterday, so the word would come out today on the National Coming Out Day, and so far the response has been phenomenal. Normally, the bank people, when they answer the phone and they say, oh, and can we send another application that you could give to a friend? Now the people are asking for 10, 12 applications so they can give them away. And the design of the card, which this is pretty funny, I'll tell you that story.
This is a great story. It's typical.
When I did the speech, I brought a camera with me on the stage, and I said, I gotta take a picture of this. I mean, it's nothing but heads. I mean, it was, as you know, the Washington, I mean, all the way to the Washington Monument, there's nothing but gay people there, and friends of gays. And I wanted to take a picture, but I was so nervous with the speech, I forgot. I'm walking off the stage, and Robin Tyler says, Martina, you forgot your camera. So I'm like, oh, God. So I picked up the camera and said, smile, everybody, and they all went like this. And the hearing impaired section was right below, so they're all going like this. And that's the picture that's on the card. So I have 2 cards, one personal and one business. They've just been issued, just activated 2 days ago. So of course all the media yesterday, they want to take a picture of me with the card, so I'm holding it up. People have been charging on this card all day. I have yet to use it, so needless to say.
I just bought a Subaru. I mean,
So anyway, this is the first time that we have national companies that are supporting gay and lesbian cause. I mean, Subaru Subaru going to put rainbow flags in their dealerships, and they're giving money to people that actually, if you purchase the car, then you get money off if you buy a Subaru. And Travis Bank is doing this huge program trying to raise awareness of it. It's fantastic. First time that we have a national sponsorship, so it's exciting. It's great.
Over here.
Hi, my name's Eric, and I'm a member of the 14-2 UMass tennis team. Correspondent, this is addressed to you, Martina. What was the reaction, or how were you treated by players, on other players on the tour, men and women?
Well, men, we don't get to see them very often. We really only see the guys on the Grand Slams, and I never felt any homophobia from any of them. And of course, the women players knew that I was gay from early on, like in 75, 76. And then I came out of what became public knowledge that I was a lesbian or bisexual in 1980. But the players didn't treat me any differently. There is one story where I was president of the Women's Tennis Association back in 78, 79. And in 1980, I thought I would come out, at least if I was asked publicly about my sexuality, I wasn't going to deny it or pretend anything else. And when it was time to get reelected for president, I said that at the board of directors meeting, that I wasn't going to be hiding, so I did not get reelected because they were afraid, you know, it wasn't good for the image of women's tennis. And then 2 years ago, they were begging me to please be president. So I did for a year, and then I stopped again. But times have changed even in the women's sports. But as far as the women players themselves, I never felt anybody like leaving the locker room when I was there. In fact, a couple times I've like to girls, please put some clothes on. Right. I mean, one I was like, ironing her clothes topless. I'm like, God, put on a shirt. Well, I was uncomfortable. She's straight, I'm not. I'm telling her to put clothes on. What's wrong with this picture? So I never felt anything like that from the players. They've just judged me on what I am as a person and how I act on the court. That really is the most important thing, how you are on the court. Because you can be a sweetheart off the court, but if you're an asshole on the court, they don't like you. So I've always been pretty well accepted.
It's really interesting in baseball, you know, in all the years that I've been in baseball, was in baseball, I never ever heard any homophobic remarks, which is very interesting. Because I tell people, the players and the coaches for the most part, and for most of the umpires are not homophobic in any way, as far as the homophobia comes with the upper echelon of baseball. You know, the owners and the general managers, the people in the offices that really don't know anything. And the unfortunate part is they think it's the athletes. Well, the athletes are getting younger, you know, the older athletes are gone and the younger athletes are coming in. And they are much more in tune with society, and they are less discriminatory. And I just feel that people have this sense that it's all players are homophobic and they hate all lesbian and gay people, and that is not true, because they know who their fellow athletes are that are gay. They know who they are, and all they care about is the job they do on the field and the type of person that they are. They have one thing in mind, is to win a World Series. And in baseball, they want to win that World Series. And if that player is a 300 hitter or a 20-game winner, that's all they care about. They don't care about anything else. And it mystifies me at times when I know this. This is why I never had a problem when it came to the players as far as my sexual orientation. Even when the rumors came out that I was a gay man, I never had a problem, never had a slur, never. So, it's not as bad as what people think as far as the players, as far as the athletes are concerned. It's really the front office. Any question over here?
My name is Derek. Oh yeah, I wanted to ask you. You said before you encourage people, young people, to come out the closet, but you really didn't. I mean, you didn't give any reason why they should, because you had to give up baseball, and there's just so many more things that would keep people in the closet. You know, I don't want to say benefits, but there's so many more reasons why people would benefit from staying in the closet than coming out. And I just want to know, what would you say to a young person or even an older person who happens to be in the closet? What could you, or what would you tell them to encourage them to come out of the closet?
I have a two-part answer for you. I really believe this in my heart. In 1985, if I had come out of the closet in 1985, I would still be umpiring baseball in 1985. I mean, I'd still be umpiring right now. I wish I had enough courage to have come out younger. I didn't. I had courage to do anything but that. I can only tell you now what a whole person I feel like right now. The inner peace that I have right now, I would never trade for anything. The turmoil that I went through was not worth me keeping my job. There are times that I wish, yes. Do I wish I had my job? Yes. And I tell you here now that I want to go back. But I want to go back being who I am and how I feel on the inside. No one in this audience can come out of the closet until they're ready. I would never want anyone to come out until they're ready. But I urge them to come out as quickly as they can. Because that inner peace, the longer you wait to get that inner peace, the longer your life is hell. And you don't need to make your life hell. Because the life that we have is hell enough. You don't have to help it. That's my advice. And that's what I say.
There are really several factions where to come out. There is your family, your immediate blood family, there are your friends, and then your work or school, and the world. Most of you don't have to deal with the world. The parents, maybe some are too old to deal with it, or you're underage, they could throw you out of the house. You don't want to do that. But for most of us, there is no excuse, or any of us, there is no excuse not to come out to your friends. And that is, I think, the most important part. That's where you can affect the most people. And if your friends don't want to be your friends because you are gay, then they're not your friends.
That's right.
And you're not going to lose your job if you come out to your friends. If you're all going to lose a job, there are a few jobs in this country where you could lose it if you come out, then you have to weigh it out. Can I do something else for a living? Or is the job the most important thing? Most of the time when people are agonizing over coming out to their friends and family, nobody's surprised anymore. Tell me something I don't know. And then they realize, oh yeah, it's really not that big a deal. A lot of times it becomes a bigger deal inside than it really is to the rest of the world. But you have to make that judgment, but like Dave says, you have to be ready for it.
Yeah,
But the benefit of that weight coming off your shoulders is phenomenal.
I can't tell you what it was for myself. That I felt like I had 2 tons on my shoulders every single day. Every single day I was in professional baseball. From the time I was 19 years old, all I ever did was look over my shoulder. And when I made it to the major leagues, it made it even worse. I looked over my shoulder. I was lucky that John came into my life at the end of 1979. He helped me get through some of the tough times. But no one should ever have to go through the one thing that I hated about my life. My partner in my life, John, was hit by a car and passed away in '82. And the reason I bring this up is because I could not even be a human being. I could not show my grief because I was so closeted. How degrading is that? And that is my biggest regret. And no one in this room, and no one coming, not even hearing this right now, hearing this, should ever have to go through that. And those are the things that I think back upon and say, I made the right decision. Because I have this great inner peace now, but I wish I had it then. Because I lost someone so special to me, and I couldn't even tell him goodbye in the way I wanted to. So that's why you should come out. Over here.
How you doing? My name is Damien, and I'm a student here, and I'm an athlete, and I'm gay.
An athlete, all right.
I've never come out to a public before. I've only come out to a select group, so since this was National Coming Out Day, I'm honored to come out. I'll see if I have a roommate out there.
I'm sure you'll be able to find another one.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
God, no palpitations. Okay. I do have a question. My question was, do you ever plan, either of you, to have children in the near future or a late future?
I will be 39 in next week, so I'm going to have any kids of my own. I better hurry up. But I've been thinking about it for a long time, and I still don't know. In fact, just yesterday I had 2 more reporters ask me, "So I hear you're starting a family." And I'm like, "Oh, that's news to me." So I don't know. I always knew I would adopt a couple kids, 1 or 2, and maybe have 1 or 2 of them, but I still haven't decided yet.
And for myself, I've always wanted to have children, but getting to the point that I'm having a hard enough time having a significant other. So to be able to be a single parent right now, I don't think is a good idea. But I'm still thinking of it.
Thank you.
Over here. And thank you. And
good luck, Damien.
Damien, I just want you to know that you have just showed everyone in this room the respect you have for yourself, and
Good evening. My name is Thomas Morgan, and I'm a grad student here at UMass, and I'm from Oregon. And I'm not an athlete, but I am gay. And I just wanted to address Martina specifically on this one. I just wanted to tell you thank you that your presence and your statements during the fallout after the 1992 anti-gay initiatives in Colorado and in Oregon were incredibly soothing and were very welcome to not only me, but many of my friends and extended family in Oregon. And given that, would you ever consider either for yourself or the HRCF or NGLTF being our national spokesperson?
Oh, God, I don't know. I'm trying to piece my life together right now, as I've played tennis for 23 years and didn't really have much of a personal life, or at least time for personal growth. I'm trying to make my emotional side catch up to the physical and intellectual, so I need a little time to myself, which is why I'm really saying no to everybody for next year and trying to have that time to myself and with my friends and family. But I'm sure that eventually I will do some of that. I don't know which way to go. There are a lot of issues that are close to my heart: the environment, animals, kids, and gay rights. And right now I'm really involved with the Rainbow Card, and hopefully we'll perhaps get involved in other causes, but right now I want to say, give me some time. But thank you for the offer, I'm very flattered.
Yes, I'd like to thank you both too for doing what you're doing, because
thanks.
For Damien and everybody else, it means a great deal.
Thank you. Well, in fact, tomorrow I'm going to Portland, Maine, where there is an initiative on the ballot for election for a vote this fall, which is similar to the Amendment 2, in that by omission they can discriminate against gays and homosexuals, because they're saying that all these people, and they name all these groups, have all these rights, And gays and homosexuals and lesbians and bisexuals and transgender people are not mentioned. So because we're not mentioned in that petition, then they can discriminate against us. So I'm going up there tomorrow to try to help raise awareness and some funds for that.
My name is Jane, and this question is to both of you. I would like to know what your life's greatest challenge has been.
Birth.
My life's greatest challenge. Someone just said Pete Rose. No, I wish they were all as easy as that. I have to be, I guess, about as honest as I can be. And it will stem back to, I was going to make a comment about what that gentleman said over there. People don't realize how difficult it is. Certainly I am not on the level as Martina. How difficult it is to be in the public eye. And how difficult it is to meet people that can be a part of our lives. Martina, I can't even compare myself to Martina, but I do have that problem. And for me, I feel my most difficult task in life right now is not this. I don't even think getting back into baseball is going to be a difficult task. It's for me wanting to find that right person and trusting the right person to share my life with. And I think it's difficult because there are so many people out there that perceive that I have it all, anything I want I can have. And just snap my fingers, I can get whatever I want. Well, let me tell you, it is the hardest thing. And it's tough to find that because it's tough to, because we're in the public eye, it's tough to trust. And although you can go with your gut feeling, it doesn't always work. So that for me right now is a difficult task. You know, it's personal, but that is my most difficult task. All the other things, you know, are not difficult for me. I learn so much when I come and come to a university. I get a chance to learn from the students. So it's not a task, it's a pleasure. So for me, that is my most difficult task.
For me, it's to make sure that my words and actions match. And I think that should be all of our goals. Because it's easy to preach, it's hard to practice it. So I'm trying to do that as much as possible. And on a personal level, the challenge is to have a private life while you're a public figure. It's very difficult. It's been difficult for me because I have this reputation of having been in all these relationships and having been in all these famous women. I mean, I'm in the same room with Katie Lang, therefore we must be together. Melissa Etheridge comes to one of my matches. We're together. Her girlfriend read me the story in the National Enquirer. Kathleen Sullivan dated my coach, Greg Harden, and then I'm here in the Globe. It's a cover for us. So as soon as I'm seen with a woman, whether she's straight or gay, it's assumed that she's gay because she's with me. And if we are really sitting next to each other, we must be together. And that's really the most frustrating thing, that I have to explain to the world what my relationship is with everybody that I'm seen with. And that really makes me mad. You know, okay, well, this friend I had a crush on, but nothing happened. That friend, I talked to 15 years and we kissed once. This friend, I was... Why do you stop? Homophobic world, because heterosexuals, I don't see they have to explain that, you know, what exactly is the relationship with all their friends, but I seem to have to do that. So that's a challenge.
Is there a question over here? Oh, yeah.
My name is Cheryl, and I'm a staff person here at the university, and in one of my former carnations here, I was a residence hall director. And one of the most difficult things for me to do, to talk about talking to young people, is to explain to my staff of color what oppression for gay, lesbian, bisexual people was about. Because as a person of color, you're born and you get it from day one. You have to do it. And it seemed very difficult to know, and as someone who is not gay, to be able to explain, or not to explain, but to give some sort of concept of what exactly is that, especially with the images that we have of gay, lesbian, bisexual people in this country. Usually when you see someone is gay or someone is announced or being portrayed as gay, usually they're a white person. And anytime there are rallies or the camera pans the crowd, it seems like it's more white people than anybody else. So it's very, although we know that there are Latino and Black and Asian and Native American, and runs the gamut across the world, it seems the issue is being championed by people who all look the same. And that these people are in a privileged position, as we all are, being at the University of Massachusetts in whatever capacity we are in, and you being here speaking to all of us in the capacity that you're in, to choose to come out or not to come out. And I guess what my question is how do you explain this or make this concept real for people, that even though you can choose to come out or not to come out, there's still stuff that has to be dealt with. And you can't just say, oh, that's something that's on them, and if they never said anything, it wouldn't be an issue for them. But I'm a Black woman, and every day that I get up and I go through my day and I go through my life, I have to deal with it. I did not choose this. This is something that I have to go through and celebrate.
Would you choose to be in the closet as a Black person?
If I was lesbian, I would be.
No. So people would know that you were Black. If you could present yourself as a white person, would you?
No, I would not.
There you are. That's good. That's great. And that's why it's important for gays and lesbians to come out of the closet, to put a face on it, because you really are. You shouldn't be able to hide, but...
As an African American, you know, I can only assume that every person on this earth has to believe that your rights have been, have been hurt in some way because you're an African American.
Actually, can I just?
Okay.
I don't call myself African American. Okay. If you're talking about me, I am a Black woman.
Okay. I certainly didn't mean any disrespect.
Oh no,
okay.
I just want to let you know that.
Okay. As a Black woman, we know that your rights have been abrogated. So, as a gay man, being a white male, a very, I hate to use this, but I'm trying to make a point, very straight appearing. If I walk down the street, nobody would know that my rights, have been stepped upon. And I have to come out to let people know that my rights have been stepped upon. And so, that doesn't make, it doesn't make that it is right or wrong I'm trying to tell you exactly how I feel, because I feel that there are times when I get a chance to speak at universities, this type of question comes up all the time, and I have a hard time answering it because I know that I wish people would know that Dave Palome's rights were stepped upon. As far as just walking down the street, they say, that person right there, he lost his job just because he has to be who he is. People that are Black, when people see people that are Black, they know that you have been persecuted. Because they see you and they say, Black people have been persecuted throughout our, forever, throughout our history. And you don't have to come out when you're a Black person because this is the way you are. That is your color. But being a gay man, I have to come out because you just can't look at me and say that I am gay. Right. So I have to come out.
And the response back to that, because I know exactly what you're talking about, is, well then, don't come out.
I want to come out. Because I want people to realize that I lost my job because of my sexual orientation, and the only way I can do that is to come out. Because there's no sign on my body that says that there is no pink triangle on me anywhere that says that I am a lesbian or gay.
You said it earlier, 40% of the 500,000 young people that take their lives are gay. Do you think that they all chose to come out, or do you think when they were 5 years old, somebody kicked them in the face and said, "Get out of here, you little sissy"?
Anyways, I think that we do have to, it's a choice, that is a choice that we must make, and I think that's how we get it.
And maybe we can all think of ourselves as pioneers. Everybody that comes out is a pioneer because they're putting themselves on the line, perhaps for the next generation, so those kids do not take their lives. So that the people that say, oh, they're just a bunch of faggots, well, you stand up and say, okay, I'm a faggot, what do you think about that? They go, oh, I didn't know, I'm sorry. And they change their mind because now they have a face on that faggot. It's not a mass over there that is an unknown entity. So maybe we're all putting ourselves on the line a little bit so the next generation doesn't have to go through this stuff.
And just a final note, you had said that if you were a lesbian, you would come out. And no one would ever know until you did. We would know that you're a black woman, but we wouldn't know you're a lesbian until you came out of the closet.
Actually, lots of people have already sued, so.
Next question over here on this side. We're only going to take, the only reason I'm going to stop you is we're only going to take questions from the sides, only because we won't be able to hear. We might get into a shouting match, and I don't want that to happen this evening. Okay. All right.
It is represented as being a white situation when it is not. It is all.
Okay, so we have to stick with the microphones because no one can hear you. And I understand that everybody wants to say something, and we'll be here for a little while longer, but if you do want to say something, please. And I'm going to be the referee here, the umpire here. And make sure that everybody goes to the mics. Over here.
Hello, my name is Barak. I'm a member of an athletic team here at UMass. I rival for UMass. And I'm gay. And this is definitely the largest audience I've ever announced Ted to.
You roll straight, do you? You roll straight.
Yes. Well, it's up to the coxswain, but hopefully we go. First I want to say, Martina, I really like your expression, put a face on it. I think that's something that's just really helpful to keep in mind. My question, I'm not out to the team, but there are a couple people who know.
You are out.
I seriously doubt anyone here, but it's not a concern for me. I don't hide it, but I don't announce it. And what I was sort of wondering to myself was why don't I announce it, or why, there's just something inside that sort of keeps me from just blurting it out. And I think my question was, it's probably a lot easier for, my team than it is for other teams like hockey and football, where we have this image of, all the macho athletes really might give each other a hard time. But then, Dave, you went on to say that that didn't exist in professional baseball, which really surprised me. But if you say so.
I can only tell you what I experienced, and I know for a fact that many.
Right back, excuse me.
Now that's a first for me. Do I do a soft shoe now, or what do I do? She will be back. She wasn't afraid of my answer, so I'll continue on. Jesus. And I'm the one that's been drinking all the water. I don't understand. See, it's all 9 innings you have to be able to hold that. It's all that training. I can only go through my experience, and it really doesn't exist as bad as people think. mean, I can't tell you that it doesn't exist completely. I mean, I'm sure there are people there that I don't know about that are so full of hate beyond belief, but the majority of the athletes that I know do not.
I kind of have a question for Martina.
I could try to answer it.
Actually, I will say, it seems to me that in her position as a singles player, and once she reached a certain height of excellence in tennis, it seems like it would be a little bit easier for her, not having to think what the other teammates are going to think.
I'm not.
That's right. Finally, I really do want to thank you for your story about John, because I heard that and I just immediately thought, I don't have any reason not to just blurt it out, and I have more reason to go ahead and say something, because I think I do sometimes do myself, and people in the team make comments. So I really want to thank you for your story, and Martina, you missed the question I had.
I answered it so greatly, I mean, everything's fine, so it's all set. Over here.
Yeah, hi. My name is Tim. I'm 21 years old, and I'm a swim coach. Although I'm out to my friends and family, I find a unique dilemma in being somebody who works very closely with children. I have no intention of denying my sexuality in that forum or to parents and things like that, but I wonder how far I would go with the issues surrounding teachers and coaches in sacrificing what I'm trying to provide for the children that I'm working with. And I was wondering if you had any advice for coaches and teachers alike in that venue.
Well, like I was talking about earlier, if you lose your job because you come out, then you've got a big dilemma. And in schools, several of my friends are PE teachers or former PE teachers, and they have that problem. They want to come out, but they're afraid of losing their job, or they never did. The kids know it. Everybody really knows it, but it's sort of an unspoken secret. I don't think I can give you any advice on that. And it's even worse when you're working as a swimming coach. I mean, there are all these beautiful bodies, and people always assume that that's what you're doing because that's the reputation that gays have, that they're always ogling and can't wait to get in bed with whoever's next to them, etc. So that's that's a big burden to carry. So I can't give you any advice. Good luck is about it.
I think also that the question of support and having everybody come out would help too, because the public needs to know that there are phenomenal teachers and there are phenomenal coaches who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and the more that we know that they're out there and the more that they're unquestionably superb, then those kind of issues will be avoided.
What we're trying to get is where it's not an issue.
Right.
Where, okay, I'm gay now, your freestyle stroke sucks. So let's talk about it. That's what we're trying to get to. Where the sexuality is not an issue. Right now it's an issue, but we want for it not to be an issue. And the more people come out, then the less of an issue it is, because all of a sudden say, oh, well, okay, but is he a good teacher? That's the bottom line, isn't it?
And they're gonna, and hopefully someday people will judge you on your professional work and not your sexual orientation, because it has nothing to do with how you do your professional work. And there's no way I could give you advice for that, because there wouldn't be anything I could tell you that could help you. I'm in the same boat with Martina. It's really tough, and I know it's tough. But being someone that likes what they're doing, you've got to be who you are to enjoy that, and you have to also be a professional and tell these kids, what they're doing wrong, and that's the only thing that's on your mind. And you must, sooner or later, you're going to have to come out if you are not already to that. And you can't have a job and say, oh, I have my job and I'm so happy, and not be out. It doesn't work. I had my job and I wasn't happy. I love my work, but I wasn't happy. Now when I get it back, I'm going to be happy because I'll have my job and I'll have my respect. So unfortunately, it's all on you to make it better. Because you're the one that's going to have to say, okay, I'm going to give up my job. If I lose my job, well, at least I'll have my inner peace and I'm happy. And I'm going to go and make it better for someone else.
Thank you.
Over here.
My name is Sharon. I'm a lesbian, I'm a professor, and I really want to address the statement that was made by the black woman who talks about, who had a very valid question concerning where are the people of color in the gay movement and why aren't they more visible. And I would want to just remind people that the gay or lesbian movement is no different than the mainstream women's movement, is no different than pretty much the United States as we know it, and racism is incredibly institutionalized and powerful. And I would say that the gay and lesbian community is every bit as racist as the general society. When we talk about where are the people of color in the gay and lesbian movement, I think it's important to recognize that as a person of color, you're also being asked to decide whether or not you're going to put yourself out there both in terms of knowing that you deal with racism every day. Are you also going to put yourself out there to deal with homophobia? And from somebody who heard from their mother that you needed to choose between the black community or the lesbian community, sometimes it's really difficult. And I would say my mother has greatly changed, but that it still is a very difficult dilemma. But I would really want to point people back to the idea that, you know, racism exists in the gay and lesbian community, and that's why you don't see people, because the media is not showing those faces out there. I was at the March on Washington, I was a performer, I was right there out there on the stage, but I didn't see any press of people of color doing those things. So.
I was one of the students that was privileged enough to be able to talk to you earlier. And I noticed that we talked a lot about bringing the subject out of lesbians and gays and whatnot. But how would you say for students, adults, people who are straight, people who are gay, what would your advice be? How do you make people in your place of work or school more aware of it and accept it as an everyday life thing and to help others with it?
I guess if they're making jokes, if they're making disparaging remarks, you just stop people and say, wait a minute, this is not acceptable. I have a friend who is gay, or I am gay myself, or however. You just have to make people stop and realize what they're saying, what they're doing. You know, it's not any different as far as racism is concerned, or people are prejudiced about Muslims or whatever. I mean, everybody thinks they're better than the other guy. And the more oppressed you are, the more you have a need to step on somebody else, and you say, wait a minute, you know, you've got a bad lot in life, I have a bad lot in life, let's work together instead of trying to beat each other up. And you just need to make people stop and realize what they're doing.
We're probably going to take maybe 2 more questions from each side.
Oh, we're just going to start it.
Yeah. Like I said, over here.
Hi, my name is Allison. I want to, first of all, thank you both for being here tonight. This is certainly a thrill to be able to hear what you have to say, to be able to listen to some of the thoughts that the people in the audience have, and personally myself be able to get up here and just address you. That's really cool.
Do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Well, it's sort of a semi-question, semi-comment thing. Some of my questions were sort of taken as I was coming forward here, and you know, they've all been really good. But one of the things that we talked about a little bit earlier was you mentioned that you were going to be going to Maine and supporting a cause there to help prevent some rights being taken away from gays. And having been born and raised and gone to school in Maine, I kind of understand the mindset there. And I can say that that we definitely need your energy there. So thank you. My question then kind of relates to the whole idea of fear. Well, I guess to both sides, really. I mean, we're talking about, in terms of coming out, we're talking about
overcoming the fear of the straight community, the fears that they have. But also being a gay person, I'm, selectively out, and that's because I have certain fears that are greater than my willingness to put myself on that line. Martina, this is for you. Can you talk a little bit about what kinds of fears you may have had to overcome, particularly in making decisions to come out, in a public way, because that's, I would think, very challenging.
Well, I was outed. I was outed by a reporter back in 1981. Let me say something about reporters. Reporters seem to be okay about asking women athletes whether they're gay or whether they know other tennis players or whoever if they're gay, or are there any problems in the locker room, etc. I have never heard of a reporter asking that question of a male athlete. Men athletes are straight because they're athletes. Women athletes have to prove their heterosexuality to the world. I'm still convinced Pam Shriver wrote her book just to convince the whole world that she was straight, even though she played doubles with me. People assume she was gay because she played doubles with me. I mean, how scary is that? So women athletes have had to prove their sexuality to the world. And because of that, I was asked by this reporter, who I knew very well, he was a tennis reporter. He says, well, I'd like for you to talk about your sexuality. I said, well, I can't because I'm getting my citizenship in a year, and if I talk about it now, I'm not going to be a citizen because it's against the law in this country. And I would like to be an American, and then maybe I can talk about it. The day after I got my citizenship, he called me in France and said, okay, I'm ready to talk now. And I'm like, well, if I come out now, that's really bad for the women's tennis tour because we're trying to get a sponsor and the image is already there that tennis players are gay, and I don't want to talk about it. So I don't really want to do it now. And I said, you're not going to write about it, are you? And he says, no, you don't want me to. I said, well, I don't want you to. The next day it's in the paper. Tennis player doesn't want to be out because of sponsorship. That's the headline. So, and in fact, I just got a letter from him recently saying, well, I want bygones to be bygones. I'm like, I don't think so. I don't need you as a friend. So I was outed, and I didn't have a choice about it. It was suggested to me by my manager back in the 70s that I put a beard in the stands, put a man in the stands in the Wimbledon at the players' box, so people would assume that I was straight. I wouldn't do that. So I never pretended one thing, but I never hid either. Now that it was out, I was like, okay, I'm bisexual, even though I hadn't had a relationship with a man since I was 73. So I was in the closet still. I was still pretending that I was bi when I knew I wasn't. Finally, I really didn't come out until 91, when I just said, screw this. Because my manager was also telling me, well, you need to be quiet about it because we're still trying to get you endorsements. Well, the endorsements hadn't happened for 15 years. They're not going to happen now. And I said, I'm not going to be quiet about it anymore. So that's when I really started speaking out.
And aren't you doing more endorsements now than you ever did? Are you doing some endorsements?
Not really.
Just trying to help.
They're not knocking on doors, Dave. They're not knocking on doors. I just saw Chris ever had another thing with her husband Andy for Good Harvest, I think it is. It's a funny commercial. I mean, it makes me laugh, but it's like, well, that's the choice I made, but I have no regrets. But anyway, what show was about what? About my sexuality?
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about fears that you may have had to overcome in coming out. And it sounds as if that was kind of thrust in your lap, so you had to sort of be courageous.
Well, I was going to come out sooner or later. I really didn't want to, in that I really felt that it was nobody's business who I was intimate with. It's not because I was trying to hide. I was out with my friends and family for a long time before that, but I just didn't think that the world had the right to know. But now I realize how important it is to be out as far as your sexuality is concerned. The world still doesn't have a right to know who I'm intimate with, but it is good for people to know that I'm intimate with women, so that it again puts a face on it and people can be less prejudiced about it. But as far as being particular, I still say that's none of your business, so stay out of my bedroom.
Over here.
The fears were that I wouldn't get any endorsements, and yes, I did. No big deal.
Hello, my name is Jan Vos. I'm co-speaker of the GSO, the graduate student organization for gay and lesbian people. Another question which is related, because this is sponsored by the physical education program, but maybe you as being a sports person haven't really dealt with this kind of thing, but during high school period, there are a lot of gay people who are not know themselves or themselves they're out or gay, and certainly they're not out. They have really horrible times, especially during physical education, because they're the last one in the lines to get chosen for the basketball team or the football team or whatever. And they're yelled at. If something is wrong, if the team loses a point, the other one gets blamed for it. And they're always in the wrong corner of the field. They are called the wimps and the faggots. And a lot of this goes on under the eye of the heterosexual, homophobic, physical education teacher who doesn't seem to understand that this behavior is discriminating, heterosexual norm and gender affirming, and destructive for the self-esteem and joy of the sports of these people. And besides this, it's certainly not fair play. And so you may not have dealt with that yourself, but what do you have an answer, or what would you think that students and people who are teachers at high schools and who are going to be teachers, what do they need to know, and what do you think that should be done?
If you had asked me that question even 5 years ago, I would not have an answer for you. But I got my answer for that in 1993 when I spoke at Aspen High School. There was a religious right person that faxed the Aspen High School students, pornography about gay men, what they did in bed and so forth, and that it was evil and was sick, and they made a big ruckus about not having me speak at the school. And I must tell you that the students stood up and said, "You have no right to tell us what we have to listen, what we can or cannot listen to." And they could not wait for me to get there to speak to them. My point being, high school students, people must speak up about that. If there is someone that is being ostracized, then it is the duty of the students now to make it better for themselves by speaking out against it. If these high school kids can do it, then any high school kids can do it. Okay?
I'm also, sorry, the microphone is up. I'm also talking about 14, 15-year-old kids. They're not out yet. They don't know even what kind of teachers do.
The teachers, first of all, I'm talking about the students themselves are the ones that have to speak out. The teachers should not even be letting something like this go on. They're the ones that should be showing an example by stopping it. And if it continues to go on, then those are the kids that we have to worry about that might commit the suicide. But I'm telling you, these kids made me so proud of making the decision of coming out openly because of how they stood up for me and how they stood up for what they felt was right for themselves. And if you can get young people that are 14, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old to do that, then they should be able to do it at every high school. And they're the ones that have to do it.
We need to educate the teachers, obviously. If they think you're throwing the ball badly because you're gay, then obviously they got it wrong. You're throwing it badly because your form is wrong. It has nothing to do with your sexuality. Unfortunately, teachers do not know how to teach sports. A lot of them are just sort of thrown into it. And I find most people, they're negative. That you have to get the solution. Don't stay in the problem. Don't say what you're doing wrong. Tell me what I need to do right. And 50% of kids today experience their first failure in sports. And that's so sad to me because that should always be a rewarding experience. That should always be a positive experience. So the problem is that teachers do not know how to teach. And maybe there are a couple gay kids that don't know how to throw, but there's also the star quarterback who is gay. But nobody knows he's gay because he's throwing the ball well. So they're assuming that because you don't know how to throw the ball, then you're gay. I was always picked for the teams because I threw better than the boys. But we need to, we were I was talking to a group of high school kids earlier, and they're saying they need to educate the teachers. We need to educate the teachers. We need to let them know how it is that you go and teach these kids how to succeed and stay in the solution, not in the problem.
Hi, my name is Linda, and I'm a teacher and a coach, so I can speak a little to the teaching issues.